Hey Tim, I literally just came out here pretty late. I think it was like 5:45 when I came out here last week. I didn't get on. We had a major snowstorm go through and it was pretty yucky weather, and we've had nothing but really cold weather since. Right now it's about 5 degrees outside. So right now it's about maybe 5 degrees outside, and it's cold. At some point, my shop is insulated, sheet-rocked, the whole 9 yards. And I actually heat the shop with just a small heater that's over there in that corner. What I did was I wired an outlet to a line voltage thermostat, and I just put one of them little small milk house heaters, they call them, over there, and I set the thermostat for like 50 degrees. It keeps it warm enough down here, you know, that it doesn't freeze or anything like that. Well, we've had negative 10, 15 degrees, I think, one night. We've had negative temperatures for every night for the past week and a half or so, and I haven't been out here doing anything, but I came out tonight. My slack tub's completely frozen, so apparently that one little heater ain't enough to keep up with how cold it was. But so I currently, my slack tub's frozen. So that's going to limit it. I'm not even really sure what I'm planning on making tonight. The last time I streamed, like I said, last weekend there was a big major storm. I was out clearing snow and everything else, and I did not get out here to make anything. But the week before we did that blacksmith's letter opener. I don't know if you can see the pattern in it. I guess probably you can. Flip it over. You can see the pattern in that. The weird thing was, I haven't etched this knife. When I did my my hardening, and I brought it up past where it lost magnetism, I brought it up a little warmer than I normally do, and I quenched it, and that scale popped off a lot of it. A lot of the scale popped off. So I walked over and I just hit it with my power wire brush on my bench grinder. And when I did, it was pretty weird because I've never had this happen before. I'm using the same materials that I've used 100 times. You know, as far as I'm using the Uda Home 15N20 saw blades, and I'm using some spring steel that I got from work, which is about 1080. I know it's 1080 because we put a piece in the spectrometer at work. You know, I cut off a small piece, put it in, burn it in the spectrometer to check and see and got a whole thing and cross-referenced the carbon and all the different contents, and came up that it was an alloy that's really close to 1080, if not at 1080. So, like I said, I've never had that happen before, to where I didn't etch it and the pattern just showed up. Now I will probably put this in coffee to darken it so that it's more easy to see. But this is actually, I mean, I could run my finger across it and get it caught in the grooves. It's basically almost as deep as if you would etch it anyway. Yeah, like I said, it got cold down here. It froze my slack tub. The only problem I had with this that I did notice after I got it all done is in the back here. It's right where the handle meets the thing. It's got a little bend. I don't know, kind of, you can see it there. It bends a little bit to this side. But it didn't come out too terribly bad. I mean, for a letter opener, I don't make knives. I'm not a knife maker. I never claimed to be a knife maker. Alright, well, we got a few guys in here. I don't even know what I'm making tonight. It's just I didn't stream last week because of the weather, and so I decided this week I have to come down and fire it up and stream and make something, but I don't know what we're making yet. No, I'm not making a trivet right now. Spent a lot of time below zero. Yeah, it's been cold here. And really cold. So, as I was walking out the door, the wife said, make a bottle opener. Maybe I'll make a bottle opener. I haven't made a bottle opener in God knows how long. I can't say that I have any, yeah, forge around and find out. Can't say that I have any specific design in mind or anything. I do, you know what, I do have the leftover piece that I made that letter opener out of. This is a leftover piece. I don't know if you see the pattern in it of that same Damascus that I could make. I can make a letter opener out of this, although I don't know, because I put a twist in it, and if I was holding this end of the bar and the vise, I'm not going to have any pattern down there. So now that makes me wonder if I want to do that. Spend a lot of time below zero on my truck. Okay, so I could, you know, if I came down earlier, like I said, I didn't even make it down here. My fire's just now getting going. I didn't even make it down here till like maybe 5:45, and then I had to go back up and reset my range extender, because I have a range extender in my garage to extend my Wi-Fi range out to the shop out here, because it's too far from my living room router. And that was, every once in a while I have to go up there. I don't know what the deal is. I have to go up there every once in a while and reset it. And I had to do that tonight. Just, I got ready to sign on. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm only going to be like a minute or two late. And I had no internet. But that only took a minute or two to fix. And now I'm here. So, yeah, we could do a bottle opener. I could use this piece. The most that can happen is it just won't have much pattern in it. So, I don't know, we got a piece that's it's about 1/4 wide on that, or thick on that end. Maybe 3/16 thick on this end. Yeah, we're just under an inch. Like maybe 15/16. And we're 5 inches long. We got plenty of material there to make a bottle opener. So, yeah, I guess. That works. We'll grab some 1-inch tongs. And let's see, who's in here? Cornwind, Trail Dust, and Tim. All right, Corwin, the other couple of guys in here, Trail Dust, his name's Kevin, and Tim Lilly. These are both guys that, well, I met Trail Dust years ago on an internet on Yama's Island Metal Forge. He would go into the live chat or the live streams and chat, and I met him at Quad State. And Tim Lilly would go in and watch the Island Metal Forge streams too, but he'd never comment, so we call him Tim the Lurker. We met him at I want to say 2023. Maybe 2024. 2024, ran into him at Quad State. He's seen about every episode of the Island Metal Forge. And we just got talking, and now we see each other at Quad State every year. And Corwin is a frequent, regular viewer over at Ray Smith. Ray does blacksmithing on Twitch. Okay, I suppose I'm going to need a hammer. So we are, alright, freestyling. Let's see what happens. First thing I'll do is knock that end in where I cut it off. Flatten off that end nice and flat. In it. All we're doing is fixing that on the end. It's halfway there. I'm actually going to just throw it back in. It's so cold it wasn't really heated to the core. Yeah, Trail Dust Scenery. I don't know if Tim has. I don't know how familiar you are or whatnot, Tim. There's Ray is on the Twitch platform, which is just you download Twitch and you go on there, and Ray does a live stream pretty much every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for a couple hours. Starts out 2:30 in the afternoon, my time here. So we're just getting that end tucked back in and getting rid of that taper on the end of the bar. We still got a little bit left, so I'll take one more heat, and I'm warming up. Oh yeah, Thomas, I went to grab the one that I made you during that live stream, and to be honest with you, I couldn't remember which one it was. I had a whole stack of them here. So I kept about four or five for myself and just grabbed the rest of what I had laying around the shop from doing different demos and stuff, and threw them in the package for you. Hopefully they work out for you. Alright, you can see that wrinkled up a little, which is alright. You can see how wide it got on that end from the upsetting. So Thomas, I think I just wanted we kind of decided, I didn't have anything planned for what I was going to make, and I was kind of decide what to make, and I think we've come up with the power hammer in the back. Yes, I made it. It has a it's a 100-pound. The top is just under 100 pounds. With most of my dies, it ends up being right at 100 pounds with the die on it. Some of them it'll be a little lighter, like 96, and some will be a little over, depending on which die I got in it. Right now it may not hit too well because the tire leaks air and I haven't pumped it up because I wasn't planning on using it. But well, let's see. Here's a piece of just curly maple, just to put in there to keep the dies from slamming together, and it's the first thing I could find. Yep. Yep. So it, yeah, with the tire not pumped up, it didn't have it wasn't hitting as hard as it normally does. I just need to fire up the air compressor and fill up the tire. But that was on a piece of hard curly maple. And it isn't the greatest in the world, don't get me wrong. I built it years and years ago. I probably had that for easily 10 years, probably closer to 15. Oh crap, forgot my pieces in there still. Alright. Got sidetracked, forgot my pieces in there. Almost burned it up. I'm going to round this out a little bit before I punch the hole in it. You can see I'm starting to tuck them corners in. If you look at the angle that I brought my hammer in, I'm bringing it in real steep on the end of that, and that's to make it push back the little part that would normally stick out and make a fish lip or a fish mouth. You don't want that, so I bring my hammer way over and just keep pushing that in so that it doesn't have a fish mouth. So let me think. I mean, I've done them a few different ways. I've slit the holes. I've just drifted and punched and drifted the holes. I've worked them open over the horn of my anvil. But I don't think we're going for anything really spectacular here. Right? So what I'm doing is I'm tucking it in, paying attention, trying to keep these sides even. You know, if I can keep it even now, it's going to come out better than if I let it go all cattywampus and try to bring it back later. This will probably be the working end. And I don't know if you saw the piece that oh no, I didn't make this hammer. This is a Mark Ling hammer. So yeah, Mark Ling, I did some horse trading with him for that hammer. Seems like every year when I go to Quad State, I end up buying a vise dirt cheap up, you know, up near me somewhere, and So almost every year I go to Quad State, I end up bringing a vise with me. Alright, so now that's looking pretty good there. I'm going to pinch off about a square, so now here's the part where I'm going to turn my anvil. If you notice, my anvil is not bolted down. I'm going to start forming that shoulder. And I'll take a couple heats. And that's the part where you would see most guys are using yeah, I made Thomas collects bottle openers with people's touch marks on them. So he you know, he made he not a challenge, but he told everybody if they make a bottle opener and put their touch mark on it, he would make something for them and put his touch mark on it. So I sent Thomas one that had some little scrolls on it and stuff. It was kind of fancy for a bottle opener, but then he sent me back one with some quarter Damascus, I think it was. All right. Let's go. And Thomas was Corwin. Thomas was my forging partner in 2023 at Quad State competition. So you know, I'm not getting a whole lot done, because I don't want to just slam away on it, because I don't want to destroy them corners I'm making. Yeah. So, anyway, Thomas's, let me look here. That he sent me, because Thomas doesn't have stickers. The one that Thomas, the bottle opener that Thomas sent me, hangs up right there on my little section of the wall where I put the stickers. Apparently, before I started watching Island Metal Forge, they had a bunch of the guys on there traded stickers and whatnot. They all had stickers made with their forge names and stuff on them. So I have a few stickers, not very many. I think it kind of died out before I started collecting them. I was late to the party. Like I said, I'm not rushing it because I'm trying not to destroy them corners. I just hit it once there, not intentionally, but it happens. You can see I'm tucking that right in. And that's without a spring fuller or a guillotine tool or anything. That's just hammer. I don't have the greatest hammer control. I mean, I don't do this full time. You see full-time smiths, and especially the guys that have been full-time for a long time. And you watch them guys, and they'll whack like that, you know, almost full power. Inlay Mokume. Yeah. I think it's Mokume or something like that. It's pronounced Mokume, but it's spelled like Mokume. But yeah, I was doing that thing at Quad State this year. We ended up doing a bowl out of a stack of like $2 worth of quarters. Because somebody there said something about doing it and said they'd do it, but they didn't have flux or something. And I said, you don't need flux. And we went ahead and made a scoop for another guy that's from, I want to say, Washington State. And that would be Jack Pines, who also does well, he hasn't lately. He had a big flood and lost a lot of his stuff. But he did a YouTube stream too. Now I'm going to start rounding up that. I think I'm going to leave this, okay, from Kent, Washington, yeah. I was close, I said Washington State. I almost thought he said it was somewhere near Seattle or something, but I am not familiar at all with the geography of Washington State. So, let's see. I'm going to clean that up, round it up a little bit more, and then we'll punch a hole right through the center. Then we'll open it up. I'm going to leave it pretty thick. Out on that, working on that loop, because it's Damascus, and if I get even one layer that didn't weld very well, it'll come back to haunt me if I try to bring it down as thin as I can with regular mild steel. For some of the people that watch regularly, they'll know that I can take that mild steel down pretty thin and draw it out quite a ways. Alright, let me touch this up here. So I'm just going to work it, whatever I need. Not afraid to take another heat. I'm going to keep going until I get it pretty round. You can see right here I got a flat spot. So I'm not going to move on until I get rid of that flat spot. Sometimes taking that extra heat makes the difference between whether your work looks good and not so good. This is going to be really simple. I may end up doing something else after I get it done, because we're not going to actually finish it tonight. I'm not going to go over there and sit there on the belt sander and watch these guys, have these guys watch me, you know, belt sand the whole thing down. Because with Damascus, you have to, well, I take that, well, yeah, with Damascus, you still got to sand it all down, or the pattern won't show. Apparently, you don't have to etch it because that opener that I made last week or 2 weeks ago is a perfect example of you don't have to etch it because That showed a pattern right straight out of the quench. Take your time. Don't be in a hurry. And you'll be able to get things very round. Your eye is a really, as long as you have halfway decent eyesight, your eye is really, really good at picking up stuff that's not what it's supposed to be. I'm not going to say your eye is going to measure like a micrometer or anything like that, but your eye can see little defects if you train yourself to look for them. You can see how round that's getting, but I still have a flat spot here. One more heat, tuck that in. Tuck up and feed the horses early. All right, Trail Dust. Okay, Canton is a suburb. All right. I'm not sure. Where are you from, Corwin? Yeah, I mean, most of this stuff, like I took them 3 pairs of tongs that I made during my live streams, them bolt jaw tongs. I took them to the meeting 2 weeks ago and gave them to some new guys when they left. They were in there, they were forging their brains out. They didn't have any equipment, so they were using the shop equipment. And so as they were walking out, I just walked up to them and handed them tongs and said, "Here, keep going, you're doing a good job, yada, yada, yada." Because the better you get this round now, the better it's going to be when you open it up. So that doesn't look too bad to my eye. Okay. A pastor? Are you a religious person, Corwin? Because Mr. Goodamoo up here, he works for Roy Adams at Christ-Centered Ironworks, which I guarantee you've heard of him. I have some punches and stuff in a 5-gallon bucket that I took with me. So I'll start out, I'll bring it out, lay it on the anvil, and I'm just going to take a center punch and give it a nice light tap. But, yeah, I mean, I have no problem. I mean, Bar Run Forge, Troy and Eli. Troy's a pastor. You know, I have no problem with religious people, per se. But, like I said, Thomas works for Roy Adams at Christ Centered. We do have some, you know, Eli and Troy, when we were at Quad State, they were hanging out at my camp forging. Well, neither of them forged. We wouldn't let him because Thomas valued his fingers too much. I'm going to try to hit the center. Look at it. Notice I don't hit it very hard. I'm just getting it, and then I'll give it a good hard hit. I don't have a lot there, just a nice mark. get me started. Now that I have the mark, the next heat I can, get into it a little harder. I get out a pair of tongs to hold that. That pair doesn't hold it very well. I get out my tongs that we mutilated at quad state, making the copper. Alright, so suppose I really should grab a different hammer to drive my punches, but yeah, too lazy. I'm going to be honest with you, everything over there in that rack is so cold. So cold. Okay, now all I did, I ran that down until I just felt it start to stiffen up on the base of my anvil, and then stopped. It did not go all the way through, probably less than 1/16 of an inch, but I'm most of the way in. Now I will just switch and go to a punch that doesn't have a point. And this is extra hard. This is a tap. We have a lot of, where I used to work, we had a lot of tapping machines. And the taps would break off down here, and I'd take the shanks and make these center punches out of them because they're super hard. And then I just take and kind of heat the end of it up just a little bit where on the striking end so they don't shatter out. Oh yeah, I remember Eli did a couple strikes. He did, I don't know, you were bragging you still had fingers or something like that at the end of it. Alright, now let me go to a punch. Not a center punch, but a flat punch. This is the problem working alone, because when you're with people, so much of this stuff is so easy to do with a second guy. And I, to be honest with you, I've never bought any punch lube ever. I've used coal dust and stuff. I got it down in there. I'm gonna take another heat. I lost my heat. I went and flipped it too quick. It wasn't deep enough. Yeah, I was saying I've never bought any punch lube. I never really used punch lube. I do get my punches locked in half the time because of that, but oh well. That's because I'm stupid and stubborn. But sometimes I'll use coal dust. You know, if I'm doing a big deep hole or something, I will use like coal dust. But a lot of times if I'm doing a real deep hole, I'll just do it with a power hammer. Square end done with a slot punch. This is the square end done with a slot punch. I'm going to do like a handle on this that tapers, cuts back, and then probably a small loop to hang it with on the other end is what I'm thinking. You know, I mean, I'm not constrained. We're freestyling. I'm just goofing off. We're going to see what we end up with. I would quench this, but my slack tub is an ice bucket. right now. So, it is what it is. Punch the hole in. Square end. Yeah, I'm not following the square end with a slot punch. I mean, I've done them different ways. I've used like my 1-inch slit and chisel, and I put a slit in it and then open that up. I've done it this way where I punched a hole through it and then open that up. You can see when you do a hole and you punch it out like that, there's your piece that you've removed. I was always told those were called biscuits, those little pieces. Here I just got a round drift. Where my hammer is. Drive it a little bit and then heat it back up. Now, I can see already that my hole isn't centered. It's thicker on this side. So what I'll do is I won't punch this all the way to approximately the 1-inch diameter. I'll go about 3/4, and then I'll finish the rest over the horn, and when I do that, that'll allow me to correct that side. Unfortunately, right now, I don't care what Roy says about preheating, because if your punch is ice cold like that one, it will cool your material faster than a hot punch will. And it cooled it really fast. Musher. To be honest with you, I think I'd probably be better off if I left that, did my handle end first, and then finished it afterwards, so that I don't distort it and mess it all up. Which I'll probably do. Set this aside for now. Make my handle end and then come back and finish that end last, so that I don't mess my handle end up, or I don't mess that end up while I'm doing the handle. Alright. So we all know they all come in different sizes and shapes, and you know, when it comes to making bottle openers, you're only limited by your imagination. So we're going to go ahead and taper that back a little bit. I want it to be a good length, so it's the length of my palm at least. I mean, I know he did his whole ice amble thing, but at the same time, you know, yes, you can forge on a block of ice, but you can't tell me it doesn't cool fast. Okay, I don't know who Carter Ironworks is. I don't think I know. And for the new people, my channel's so small, most of the people here are people I've actually met. I'm not trying to be a YouTube celeb or any of that. Just giving people something to do Sunday nights at 6 o'clock. Alright. So let me taper this back more. Once again, see, I'm being gentle when I get up here because I don't want to damage them corners. And I'm going to keep this pretty flat. I'm not going to do a whole lot to it because it's a piece of pattern welded steel. I'm going to have to sand all that anyway for the pattern to show, so alright. And on the camera it looks black, and in real life it's a very, very, very little color left in it. I'm still Eric. Okay. Just gotta load the pictures to the chat. Okay. I have no idea what pictures he's talking about or who Eric is, but that's all right. Everybody's welcome. Like I said, I could care less if I have, 25 followers or 2,500 because, most of the people that do actually show up here show up because we've met, we know each other. And there's camaraderie there, as opposed to a bunch of people that, well, that you've never met. Just smoothing up tapers, straightening things out. When I get done, if I show you this, taking them extra heats and doing them extra steps, I don't know if you can see. You can see the pattern in the scale. Them little lines running diagonal. But you can also see that it's pretty darn flat and there aren't very many hammer marks. Same Eric that's been around. Oh, no, I don't know. But then again, it could just be because I'm an old man. And probably doing senile, I don't know. Alright, let me grab a smaller pair of tongs. I'm just here for the free stuff. I don't know, Tim, have I ever given you any free stuff? I know I've given you a book here or there. And what is awesome? I don't see it. Where is these pictures? Not pumpkin patch though. Huh. Alright, so I don't know for sure what the other end of this billet's going to look like, because it may be the end that I grabbed in the vise when I did the twist, so it may not have any pattern in it at all. Who knows? We are just going to, we're going to wing it. This whole project tonight is just winging it. Absolutely none of this is pre-planned, or, you know, that's why I wrote freestyling. And I haven't been even in the forge in 2 weeks. Like I said, I came down here and my slack tub was frozen up, and it's been just ridiculously cold out. It's busy here and there. Alright, now what do I want to do on this other end? You see the other end's kind of raggy. I think we're going to cut that off. Alright, I got most of the way through it. Trying to cut from both sides, so it went a little slow. Trying to cut from both sides, keep it even, so I don't have to spend 3 heats knocking the taper back out of the end. Alright. So you're posting the pics up on Instagram? As far as I know, I mean, I think I have an Instagram account, but I've never been on it, or I haven't in years. Probably don't even remember the password or anything. There's too many platforms these days. You got your Facebook and your YouTube and your Instagram and Twitch and a bazillion stupid platforms for old geezers like me to keep up with. Alright, now I'm going to just grab it for the first time and bust that piece off. Throw it down on the floor because my flat tub's frozen. Normally I would throw that piece in the flat tub so that nobody burns themselves on it, although I'm the only one that's ever working in my shop. Alright. We'll straighten that end out, and then we're going to have a coming up and then kind of in, and then a loop to hang it with, I guess, for lack of a better description. What up, Lexi? How's the old down under treating you? I got a lip on there that's going to form a, I don't know if you can see it, it's probably too hot. I got a little lip that's starting to curl over that's going to form a cold shot. We're going to come over here and get rid of that real quick. Alright. Alright, so we tapered this way. Now we got to taper down, but we got to leave some there. We're going to make a loop there to hang it on. Not sure how big I'm going to make that loop. Whether I want it to be bigger than the end that the opener, or the same size or smaller, I don't know. I guess I better make that decision really quick. What am I calling cold? Right now, I mean, we were down, we had a couple days that we were down. I think the lowest we were down, we've been pretty much 0 or below under for the past, at night, for the past week and a half almost. I think the coldest we got to was -15. Right now, it's still pretty early. And we're about 5 degrees. Because it'll cool down overnight. I think probably the -5 tonight. Alright, we're going to knock the corners off that a little bit. You can see me kind of just bashing it at an angle, but it's going to start to get a fish mouth in the end. So then you'll see me take it and keep tucking it in from the end, so I minimize that fish mouth and then I get rid of it. So right there, I just minimized it. The next heat will get rid of it, kind of round that end off, and then we'll make our shoulder in it so we can punch our hole, and then make the rings on both ends, and put the little dimple that opens your beer bottle. And I don't have a beer bottle here, so I'm just going to have to hope that it fits when I get done. But yeah, like I said, normally my heater keeps it, you know, it's just a little 110 heater hooked up through a line voltage thermostat that I use out here to keep the shop warm. I've only got a small 30 amp circuit to run out here right now. So I'm starting to get that fish mouth. Look, where am I going here? Right there. See, I'm starting to get that fish mouth. So I'm going to keep coming in and tapping back to get rid of it. I may go to a smaller pair of tongues so I can hold it a little better. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I got a small heater here, and I need to bury a bigger power line coming out. Right now I've got literally an overhead wire that's running out, but it was only like, I want to say 10 gauge or 8 gauge wire. So I only put a 30 amp breaker in. Eventually I want to run at least 50 amps out here. That'll probably be all I need. Alright, let me tuck that in and now I'm taking another bigger bite. But the whole time I'm controlling that. I don't want to let them fish mouths get out of control on me. This really is taking longer than it should. I mean, normally I'd probably be done with this by now. Not really, Corwin, because the layers are still just laying flat. I mean, the pattern in it is from the twist. You might put a small blob here or there when you go to go to do it, but it won't be very much, and it won't be very noticeable. And the fact that you're drawing it out, because it's a twist, the longer you draw it out, the less pattern you have, or at least the less twist. It goes to being straight. Hard to explain. Alright, I got that rounded. I'll bring it out, set it up, and start pinching down my shoulder there. Yay! Kevin's back! Yay! You know, Kevin, I'm exactly right where I was when you left, because I stopped working because I didn't want you to miss any of it. Yeah, I'm serious. So, when people aren't watching, or I'm not streaming and I'm not stopping and showing you, pointing out things to watch for, or how I'm correcting them and stuff like that, yeah, it literally goes twice as fast. I'd be done with this by now probably if I wasn't demonstrating. Oh, you're welcome, Kevin. I do the same thing for somebody I like. Alright, let me punch in a... So I'm going to flip it, trying to get it even. Pull it back a little. That looks better. Now you see out here, I can't really swing full force on it. But I'm getting them started. It doesn't look like I did much, but I just established my shoulders evenly across from each other in that heat. I would have liked to get more, but I didn't. But now I'll probably turn this a little bit. Yeah, and you guys can see what I'm doing here. As I come over this edge, that's a pretty sharp edge. Maybe I'll use that edge. I used it on the other end. It worked. That camera's at an angle a little bit. My anvil isn't that crooked. Alright, so get a little more heat. Another thing with this Damascus is if you keep it, you know, if you do go down on the pattern welded stuff, I don't care what anybody says. If you get it cold, it will split just like wrought iron splits between the layers. Because as they get really cold, they are different densities because they're different alloys. Like I said, everybody, you know, they can say what they want. It's not homogeneous, and you will split it. And some other people say that they work it the entire time at or near welding heat. Alright, so put it there. Now I'm not hammering hard. Because I'm trying to have a degree of accuracy. You can see I'm starting to tuck that in. It is easier if you use a guillotine tool or a spring fuller. Like I said in the past, I've got them. That's a Cray center iron one. You can see how much I've used it. I haven't cut the die yet. And sometimes I use them, and sometimes I just try to work on my hammer control. If you never work on it, you won't ever get better. And as you can see, my shop is an absolute mess right now. Has been for the past year. I need to come in and do a major clean out. Rearrange and put stuff up on the shelves. I got a welder sitting on the floor over there, and one over there, and a plasma cutter back there, and another welder over there where it belongs. Another plasma cutter. Alright, so we're starting to taper that end down. We're not going to taper it down as long as the other end. I want one, you know, like a longer end and then a shorter end. I think I'm pretty much where I want to be, other than just cleaning it up, straightening it out, evening up the edges. Maybe thinning it out a little bit more. It's a little thick. How you been doing that? All right. Just straightening now. I don't know. Over the summer, I watched a guy that's been blacksmithing. He's been a full-time blacksmith. He worked at I think it was Jamestown. I know he worked at Cooperstown, New York, at their museum. He worked at Colonial Williamsburg with Pete Ross. And I watched Steve, and the way he would make his shoulders and stuff without going and using the guillotine tool, and it was just phenomenal. But the guy forged, you know, forged for 40 years, 8 hours a day, you know, 5 days a week. So, you know, and he'll even tell you he has a lot of hammer control because of that. Like a coffee handle or coffin handle. Yeah, coffin handle, I guess. I guess that's what you call it. Now let me start working on rounding this up. Alright, let me drive some of that down. Like I said, you can rush this part and get it done faster, but little things like that flat right there on that end, If you don't go back and get it out, your work's not going to look good. Because this is Damascus, to be honest with you, I would not go as far as I normally do, or what I'm doing right now. I normally wouldn't go as far, because I know that I'm going to go and grind this entire thing to make the pattern come out. And for the people that want to be technical, no, it's not Damascus, it's pattern welded steel, but it's like saying, you know, Charmin for bath tissue, or, you know. Damascus is just like a brand name of pattern weld. For the stuff that was made in Syria, I believe it was, back in the old days. I don't know if you were here for the first half, then you know about how many heats it took me before I was happy with that end. And I'll do the same on this. You can see right there, I got a big flat spot. I'm starting to get the curve I want around that end. So now I had pushed it back to get that curve because it was elongated. Now I'm going to pack them in when I round it up from the sides more, and not work as much on the end. Yeah. And like I said, when I came out here, I fired up the forge. I had no idea what we were making. And then I reached up here and grabbed a leftover piece of pattern weld from when I did that blacksmith letter opener, which I don't know if these guys that weren't here in the beginning saw. My local group did a demo. Once a month we meet and they do demos and stuff, and they did a demo of a blacksmith's knife. There's a lot of new guys in the club and stuff, so they kept it pretty simple, and they just made theirs out of 1/4x1 mild steel. And, you know, I did not make one at the meeting because I have all the equipment to do it at home, and I don't want to hog up the few forges that they have for the club. So I came home, and that night, 2 weeks ago, and went ahead and made one on my live stream. So I had a piece of pattern welded that I had welded up and made something else off in the end of it. Still had a good sized chunk, and I made that blacksmith's letter opener out of it. Alright, so we're getting pretty close there. I can see I'm still a little uneven from one shoulder to the other. And I'll fix that before I move on. I mean, take that extra heat. It'll make your work come out better. But anyway, so the blacksmith knife they made was just one of the, you take the handle and you wrap it around, and I had a piece of billet left over. So I made this one out of that billet. When I did my hardening, sorry, left is right, left is left. I quenched it in the oil, I quenched it in the oil, and the pattern showed up. I walked over and I hit it, literally what you're seeing is that, I walked over and I hit it with the wire brush there on the grinder right after I hardened it. Most of the scale popped off, which is a good sign when you're hardening it. And I walked over there and I cleaned it with a wire brush, and that pattern was what you see. I've never had it show up like that without having to etch it, which was weird. Really was weird. Just trying to push it over and get it centered right now. Sometimes you go to move it and it affects somewhere else, and then you look at it and you go, ah, crap, man, you got to go back and take another heat. This one has I pushed a little, spot out towards the end, and now it looks like a cone head type thing. Hard to explain. I'm just going to take it, tuck it in a little bit on the end, and won't need much heat. Not bad. That don't look too bad. I'm not going to worry about going in and knocking them corners off with the hammer. I'm going to do that later with the sander, because I got to sand it anyway. So I'll go ahead and punch my hole in that end. Let me clean a little bit of clinker out of my fire. By a little bit, I mean a big chunk of clinker, because this coal is horrible. And one of the reasons I don't like this coal isn't just that it makes the clinker, it's that the clinker, when you go to dig it out, will not stay together. Falls apart, makes it hard to pull it out. Sometimes the thing that helps with that, I've noticed too, is if you are welding and you're using flux, the flux almost makes the clinker stick together better. No, you won't have to worry about scaring the wallabies. Their vision isn't that good. Alright, let me punch my hole. And grab a center punch just to find the hole, get it located, and then we'll punch it through with a regular flat punch. Alright. So once again, I'll bring it out, I'll put it on my anvil. You'll see me, I give it a little tap. I don't drive that thing right in. I give it a little tap, I pick it up, I check it. Make sure that it's in the center before you go wailing on it. So I lay it down. Look at it, look at it, look at it. Little tap. Now I can look at it and see that it's too close to the handle. Move up just a little bit, little tap. Looks better. Centering looks pretty good for now. Once I get it drifted out, I'll know more. And then I'll drive it home. Okay. Put the punch back. Grab this. You see the hole. And once again, I probably overstress it, but the closer you can get on your steps, stay at that step until you get it as close as you can get it before you move to the next step. Sometimes you don't want to take that extra heat. You don't want to, but it just makes it go easier if it's where it belongs before you go to the next heat. And when you're starting out, everybody just wants to rush through it. I'm going to lose so much heat on that one. Wasting time, goofing off. Yeah, it doesn't look horrible. Normally I quench this. My slack tub's frozen. I'll probably walk over to the kitchen today, so. See if it's just on the top or if it's frozen all the way through. It's frozen all the way through. I did also pick it up off the floor. I think it's probably just it's really cold down near the floor compared to a few feet up off the floor. Put it back in. It didn't come out, but it did. It's ready to come out. It's sheared off already, but it's just still stuck in the hole. If I'm punching a hole and I punch down in, when I flip it over, a lot of times I won't go back and reheat it. I'll keep it close to, it's already started to cool and turn black. That'll help it shear off instead of bending down. Probably won't even use that now. Just go to this because that's going to push. It's already sheared off. It'll push right out. See, it pushed right out. Alright. Started opening it up. Ow. Alright, started opening it up. You can see the biscuit's still stuck to it. And we started opening it up. A little deformed, but nothing we can't fix. Most of these guys probably already know this, but for those that don't, when you punch the hole and you go over your Pritchell hole or your Hardy hole, put your piece in, pull it till you feel it touch that wall. You hit it, then you move it to the other side, then to the other side. Keep moving it around the hole, because if you keep it on one side, it'll push down, the other side will push down into the hole. Whereas if you just keep going corner to corner, you know, here, just keep moving it. You'll see it when I do it. Yeah, I probably could get 2 bottle openers out of that piece, but one of them's going to be just a handle to hang it on. I don't burn it up. So you can see I pull it near me, push it forward, move it to the side, move it to the side. You'll see it even more when I go to this hole. Alright, that's all I'm going to do with that. Now I'll flatten it out. I'm going to take it up to heat before I flatten it, but you can see how it pushed down into the hole as I went over that hardy hole. I'll heat that up before I mess with it anymore. Find my other hammer. Now we'll, yeah, well, you know what, I'll throw it this way. And we'll go work it out over the horn. Now I can fix over the horn. You see it's flattened, but you can see where you're thicker. Those are your spots so you can fix it down. And I don't want to hit it all down there where it's thinner. Stay up where it's thick. And then I'm going to put it back in, heat it up. It's cooling fast because it's cold. Everything's cold. The kookaburras. Going wildly deformed, but I'll fix that afterwards. What I'm really worried about is just getting it the same thickness. You can see I'm bringing it out, but it's really deformed, and it will get better, trust me. Keeping it warm because I don't want it to crack. This is not mild steel. And this end I can go as little or as much as I want. It's just an end to hang it on a hook or a nail or whatever. The other end I'll have to make to a pretty specific size so that it'll open a bottle. Tough to get in right in that spot and very accurately. And not misstrike and mess it up. Once again, we're getting there. We're just working it down, keeping it hot. I don't want to work it too cold, but this will crack. Especially this material. Mild steel, I'd be working it colder than this. That side's good. And this side's getting there. And like I said, it's thin, so it's going to cool fast. You're not going to get much time to strike it. Get what you can, get it back in the heat. And then my horn isn't really round, so I may go and just use a drift to make it nice and round, or I may just keep going on the horn. And I can usually get it pretty good by eyeball, so either way. I mean, if I go back to using my guillotine tool, a lot of this stuff goes a lot faster. It really does. But I'm trying to get used to doing it without it. It improves your hammer control. Once you improve your hammer control, then your work comes out smoother. You end up with better looking work. Yeah, I could almost make a bottle opener. It might be a little too thin on that end, because it is pretty thin out on the far out end. Alright, you can see that the outside is getting pretty close to round, but the inside is not very round. I got a big flat spot right there. If it was the other end, I wouldn't worry about it, because that's where you're going to punch in the little clip, or whatever you want to call it, the dimple or impression that you use to open the bottle. But on this end, I think what I'm going to do is get a drift and put it in there. Kind of fix the inside of that circle. While the drift is in there, it gives me a chance to straighten everything up and even it out too. Alright, now it's nice and round in there again. That end's not too bad. It is off center. So we're going to take another heat and we're going to fix that. Push it back into center. Ideally, this is where I'd want my quench tub. And I wouldn't come out and quench it, because it's thin and I don't want it to crack. But I just dip it real quick, maybe once or twice, in and out, and that would harden it up enough that it wouldn't affect that while I hit in behind it a little bit. But with my slack tub frozen, we will have to well, I'm going to have to quit right there and call it. Yeah, right when I say I'm going to quit, I go back for more. Yeah, alright, I'm going to quit right there and call it close enough. And what little bit it is off, you can see it tapers down, and it's pretty thin on this end, so I don't want to keep going. But what little bit is left there, where it's a little bit thicker here or there, I'm going to sand out. And now I can open up the other end and make the bottle opener end. heck that is. Looks like a piece of fire brick in me. Fell down into my forge there. Alright, I got all these regular bricks sitting around it. It could be a piece of a regular brick. Alright, let's get this fire cleaned out a little bit. Give her a second to crank back up. And we'll do our other end. Now I know that when you do bottle caps, usually it's like a 1-inch diameter on the inside. So I think this is pretty close. Let me see if I can't. This was just a piece of spring. I make a lot of my own drifts and stuff. I think this one's pretty close. If not, I have regular longer ones. I can drive in there until I get to that 1-inch mark. Put it. But anyway, alright, turn that air up and get that going faster. Brakes and blinker. Alright. Let me give it a minute and warm up that fire back up. Because I just dug it, a lot of the clinker up from the bottom and kind of pushed it off to the side. Now I got to reestablish the fire because it's really cold. Threw some new coal on the top. Won't take very long. It's the disadvantage to working with coal is you have to do all this fire maintenance, but you don't have to do as much with the propane forges. I got rid of a couple propane forges, but I do still have 1, 2, 3 here still. And I haven't touched the propane forge in 5 years. Easily 5 years. It's just I started using this coal forge after I built this. I love working at this forge. I mean, I like coal, always have. There are times when propane's easier. There's times when I cheat and I use my oxyacetylene. But for the most part, I like coal. All right, let me grab the bigger one and run that in until we get to the 3/4 inch or so. Ah, I got it hot and burn it. So, we'll have to see how brittle it made it. This may be a total failure. I might be able to save it. It didn't look like it crumbled anywhere. But I will have to go out and do more of it over the horn so that I can thin all this material back into the same as what's there. It does look like I got a little crumble there. Yeah, this forge you see here, I made this. This was like my first brick project ever. I'm not a mason, that's for sure. And but I looked on Facebook Marketplace, and there was somebody giving away free bricks, and went and picked up, I don't know, 350, 400 bricks, and brought them home, and that's what they ended up being. You can see now I'm starting to, I went over there and made sure that it wasn't too crumbly and falling apart, and gauged it to see how small I have to go the rest of it and bring it down to, and now I'll just bring all the rest of it down to that, and by the time I get there it'll probably be pretty close to the finished size. Kevin, I'm really surprised that you didn't start on coal, because you're like older than dirt, man. You wouldn't even think they had propane forges when you were younger. So you can see now we're thinning it out, working it down. You know, sometimes we burn it. It's not too bad. We can just keep going, adapt and overcome as the issues arise. Now, why are you taking a class? I thought there was a saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. All right. Gonna keep working it. I'm trying to thin out that section there. Obviously, you can see where I'm hitting, so you know where I'm thinning. Just in case it wasn't in the frame. Because sometimes when I hold it out in front of this camera, up is down and down is up and left is right. And sometimes I hold it out thinking you can see it, and you may not have. From the formation of the world. What about that wheel thing, Kevin? Whoa, now that was an invention. If you want to talk about revolutionary and changing the world, okay, you can see it's getting there, it's getting bigger with every pass as I'm pushing that material, and it's got to go somewhere. I don't want to go past my 1 inch though. Well, your mom wouldn't let you near the, yeah, I don't blame her. I mean, I do have some quenching oil that didn't freeze up. Suppose in a pinch I could spot cool with that. Now I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to take a heat, put this drift in it, which I'm not sure what the size this is. Okay, this is like maybe 7/8. That would get me pretty close. Get me well rounded anyway. Now you can see I got my ring kind of rounded up on that end. What I think I'm going to do on that end is, it isn't very even right now, but I don't think I'm going to mess with it. I don't want to keep hammering it around or I'll end up too big. And I don't want to just keep hammering it around, I'll end up too big and I'm going to sand it anyway. Because eventually, before it's done, I need to sand the entire thing out. So I'm going to I don't know what I'm going to do right now. I don't want that to burn up. Yeah, this might work. Take this over, set it down. Put it there, give it a good hit to set it, but not so hard that I can't relocate it if I don't like it. Alright, that got me started. Now I'll heat it back up. If you remember, I didn't want it to burn up while I was over there looking for a tool. So I pulled it out of the fire. So by the time I got it out here, it was already, you know, getting cold. But this is actually almost done because the rest is all just going to be over at the grinder. I'm going to be touching anything up, anything that I don't like where it's a little thicker than it is in another spot. I'll be fixing all that on the grinder anyway when I grind it down, because if I don't grind it down, you won't see any pattern in it. And Thomas has a letter opener with my touch mark on it, which doesn't sound too impressive, but I've only touch marked maybe, I think, 7 pieces that I've ever made. So now I got it dimpled in, and I tip it and start just pushing it that way to give me the, I'll walk it out, push it down, and that'll give me a good sized dimple to catch the cap. So, I got it pushed in quite a ways, but it's still pretty thick, and I found that they work the best if they're kind of come down to a real thin edge. So I'll take my punch and I'll kind of move it right over to the edge and punch down so that I have it thins out. Because right now it's like this, and I've got a thick edge over here on the side that's going to open. Want to get rid of that? Kind of crazy to think that Bart can destroy everything. Yeah. Yeah, you can make amazing things. Or you can just burn up horseshoes. I mean, not saying mentioning any names or anything, but alright. So tongues down. Just pop. Slide it out a little more. Pop. And that dimples it down more out there. Alright. Now we got this letter opener that's, or bottle opener, got our thing in there. I think it's going to be just about the right size to clip on and open just by looking at it. I mean, I've seen a lot of them, even though I don't drink beer. And I definitely don't drink anything in a pop top. Maybe a bar bottle. Now I'm going to make sure the whole thing sits flat, which it does. There's no twist in it. And now I'll clean it up and etch it and see what it looks like in the end. But yeah, let's see. Cheaper than the fireworks stand. What's up, Possum? Old Man John. Yeah, that's me. But yeah, for those who didn't see it, let me see. I might have a picture of the Thomas collects bottle openers. And so when I made him the bottle opener, that was before we actually met. He'd never really seen any of my work, didn't know what to expect, so I'll usually do that. A lot of times I'll send somebody something that's like, oh wow, you know. So Thomas was collecting bottle openers, and I made one that basically has the little hook on it that you hook on and pry up. But then the handle of it, I added scrolls on both sides, wrapped a little collar around it, and then put my touch mark on the collar. It was pretty fine stuff. I mean, it was like 3/8 by 1/8 inch for the scrolls or something. I can find a picture of it. What time we got anyway? Yeah, and I like when I look up and I see there's a whole bunch of conversation, and while I was working, you guys just started talking back and forth and stuff. That's very much encouraged. Keep yourselves entertained and busy and stuff, because sometimes I can be boring. You know, and for some people, they just don't want to sit there and... Yeah, I got a picture. We'll have to see if it shows up. But I made this bottle opener for Thomas. So when everybody else was sending in bottle openers, I just figured it'd be a good way to introduce myself. And I really like doing stuff with scrolls and stuff like that. I don't do a lot of it, but when I do, I really like it. For those who've seen some of my work, I mean, what time have we got? Put my phone in my pocket. I'm asking everybody what time. Oh, it's only 8 o'clock. Alright, so it's been 2 hours. Oh, man. Holy shit. Alright, so what are we thinking here? That's gotta cool. I gotta let it air cool. Yeah, and then the one that I was making tonight just now, that I still have to let it cool, still a little bit warm. This one here is made out of pattern welded steel. This is made out of pattern welded, and I got to clean it up. And I didn't bother knocking all my corners off with the hammer because I have to grind the whole thing in order to make the pattern come out. But I'll make the pattern. It was made with a leftover piece from another project I did, which was made from a leftover piece from... I had a piece left over 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago on the Sunday stream, I went to our blacksmith's regional meeting there for my guild, and we made these blacksmith knives, but we call them blacksmith letter openers because that was what they were doing at the class. There's a lot of new people. They were using just a piece of 1/4 inch by 1 mild steel and making letter openers. Basically, they were like, hey, they're not going to hold an edge. They're not going to be hardenable. On your camera roll. Yeah, I just showed it, Thomas. I had it on my camera too. So, yes, you do get a better edge on the pattern weld. An interesting story is this one right here. I cleaned it up. I did the sanding. Yeah, never asked me to make a shepherd's hook. We'll get to that in a second. But I cleaned it up in Possum. I cleaned this up and I sanded it. And then when I hardened it, I haven't etched this. When I hardened it, I went up a little bit, just a little bit hotter after it lost magnetism than where I normally do. And I quenched it, and my oil was pretty cold, so it was a pretty hard hardening, that's for sure. But then I went over and I wire brushed it, and this pattern was in it already. And it's in it just as deep as most people etch. So I could probably go from this straight into a coffee stain. But I never etched this. It's on, it's just there. And it was the weirdest thing. It's never happened to me before. Oh yeah, guys, with the candle holder, not just one is my wife. And the candle or shepherd's hook. Years ago, when I first started blacksmithing, she asked me to make her a shepherd's hook. So, you know, I was like, yeah, you know, if you want a shepherd's hook, go to Walmart and buy one. And she just would not, you know, would not leave me alone and drop it and, you know, go to Walmart and just buy one. Because I'm like, literally, you can buy a shepherd's hook at Walmart probably for less than I could buy the material to make one. But she was very persistent, as my wife can be. And let me cut this air off, and I'll let this fire start dying out. And we'll just do some fireside chat for a little while. All right, so I started out and I made this shepherd's hook. Finally got tired of it. So I went up and I put my hook, and I said, well, I might as well make it a double. So I put a hook on the other side. And then I got to thinking, you know, I started out with a piece of 5/8 square, or no, 1/2 inch square. So I went up and I put a hook on either side. No big deal. And then I'm like, well, you know, I should just use the other sides too. So now I got 4 hooks up there, one on each flat. So I'm like, okay, now I got the 4 hooks. The top looks kind of weird, so I did this tapered spiral thing to put a point on the top up in between all them hooks because it looked empty up there. So then I was kind of thinking, well, you know, I've got a lot up there and I've still only got a 1/2 inch round, or 1/2 inch square stop. So I took 1/4 inch bars and wrapped them all the way around the whole thing, all the way down. So that it looked like a rope, but it was just 1/4 inch bars wrapped around that 1/2 inch bar. So then when I got that done, I said, wow, this looks too fancy. I can't leave it out in the front yard. Somebody's going to steal it. So I made some scrolled up legs for it. And I made the scroll up legs for it and everything, and eventually when I got done with her shepherd's hook, we had a coat rack. And that's why my wife says, don't ever ask me to make a shepherd's hook. Or a candlestick. £100-pound bags? Where are you getting 100-pound bags from? I ain't never seen Cole with anything but 50-pounders. which is all I want to, copper. What are you asking me about copper? Oh yeah, I put like wrapped copper on the collars and stuff to cover some welds and whatnot on the coat rack. But I mean the shepherd's hook that my wife asked me to make her. So yeah, I ended up getting rid of it. And it didn't really fit where we needed to put a coat rack, and who knows. It went somewhere else where it was well loved. And place I get it from sells by the pound. I fill large. Okay. All right. Yeah. See, I am. I got rid of the coat rack. I just said that. But anyway, so yeah, if I had 100-pound bags, you know, I'm too old for 100-pound bags. I mean, I got 50-pound bags, and that's all I want. Yeah, so we're cool now to where I can hold it at least. It's still a little warm. We'll get that all ground up, and we'll, after I grind it, I will go back in. If you harden it, it does etch better. If you don't harden it, it doesn't etch as well. So I will harden it. You know, it's long enough. It's got a good size handle. We can hang it. And we can open a beer bottle, which I never drink, so. I mean, I do drink once in a blue moon, but it's only if I'm out on wing night. That is a bold-faced lie. Everybody saw that? My wife just lied to me. It spent a couple weeks in our house. Right at the bottom of the stairs, right inside the door. Don't let her try to make me out to be some bad guy. But yeah, so if anybody has any questions or anything, I mean, while I'm picking up tools and putting tools away and throwing tools in the bucket. Anything? Yeah. Like I said, this coal that I got right now, I got it real cheap. The guy was going out of business, and I paid like $8 a bag or something. And around here, it's usually $12 to $15 a bag. So at $8, I snatched up a bunch of it, and like I said, it burns. It's all right. I've had worse coal, but it does. The clinker does not want to stay together. So when you try to clean it out, the clinker just falls apart, and you got 100,000 little pieces of clinker. So it's kind of a pain to clean the fire out. Yeah, I mean, it is nice to use the cheap coal, but like I said too, I mean, it's a pain because once I get clinker in the fire, it's hard to clean the fire. You know, with some of the other stuff I've used before in the past, you know, it would create a nice donut in the bottom that you could reach in and pull out a whole piece of clinker, and, you know, cleaning your fire was only a matter of killing your air, reaching in and pulling out a big chunk of clinker or two, and then turning the air right back on and getting right back to work. But if the clinker doesn't stay together and it just comes up in tons of little chunks, it's hard to clean out on the fly.
Closest thing to Coke for 56 pounds.
Okay, and you're where, Possum? I don't remember. Indiana or something, aren't you? Best I can get so far is half-day round trip to full heating coal. Okay, yeah, Northeast Indiana. I knew that you were relatively close to Quad State because Thomas said he was going to your place, I believe, after Quad State. And said that you were only 4 or 5 hours away or something like that. I mean, someday I'll make it out to Thomas's, you know, during the summer because, you know, I mean, Michigan's got to suck in the winter. But then again, I'm from, you know, I'm right on the edge of what they call the Tug Hill region of New York, and we get hammered with massive amounts of lake effect snow. So coming off Lake Ontario. To the point where we, if you go north of me, about 20 miles north of me, they have like some of the most snow in the whole country. Because it just comes off in the Great Lakes, it comes off in Ontario. And once it comes off the lakes, it forms and just dumps. So how much work you got left on the shop there, you and Ed? Before you're all ready to start doing live streams. Yeah, I don't know what. This was in my... I mean, it looks almost like it might be a piece of the red brick. I have a bunch of bricks just sitting up here to keep the coal from falling back off that edge of the forge, so it might be a chunk off one of them bricks. It does not look like coal at all. Could just be a rock that was in the coal. It almost doesn't really look like red brick either. I don't know. And the coal that I bought, I mean, I just dumped some up there and you can see I've got everything from powder, you know, this is just powdered dust, right up to big chunks. So as I've been burning it, I've been kind of, you know, digging them out and seeing how big the biggest chunk was. You know, it's like, that's a little ridiculous. When you're buying coal, it's not supposed to be that big. Or this one. Those are pretty big chunks of coal. Which, not a big deal. This stuff cokes up pretty good, so I can drag a big chunk on there and it'll coke right up, and then just hit it once with the thing and it falls apart. Just give it a tap with my poker in the fire and it falls right apart after it's coked up. There. Eucalyptus and ironwood. Fist-sized piece of flint and a bag of charcoal. Yeah, yeah. Just be one of those creeps who randomly shows up on Roy's doorstep because you tracked him down from his YouTube channel. I think that's how Thomas found him. I mean, it helps if you bribe Roy with food, because I don't know if you've noticed, but he's getting a little round there in his old age. We're setting up. We just need electrical so we can stream. We get the internet down there. All right. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, I actually I came out, went to fire up my OBS here, and I have a range extender out in my garage. I run like a 100-foot Ethernet cord from my router out to my garage, and that plugs into a range extender that makes it reach here in my shop. So I'll have Wi-Fi out here in the shop, but I have every once in a while I have to go out and just unplug it and plug it back in and reset it. And when I came out today, I came out real late, almost 6 o'clock. Started my fire up and everything, and went to fire it up a couple minutes late. And I have no room to talk on body shape. Hey, round's a shape, right? I mean, I'm good. But yeah, I ended up having to reset my router, and so I started the stream a little bit late today, but it wasn't too bad. But yeah, I'm going to let everything go out. I mean, I don't know, it wasn't a very big project. It wasn't very fancy yet. I mean, not really sure how fancy it's going to be, because even on this, it wasn't a very high layer count, and it wasn't twisted a ton. So when you do all the drawing out, you're not going to have much pattern in it, because you're going to, you know, like even here, if you look, you're going to get the same thing here. Where you're drawing out like that, it's going to stay going at an angle because it was twisted. But as you draw out and you thin that down, you put that distal taper in and you're thinning that way, you can see it starting to turn, and it's just turning into long layers because you're drawing that material out. So that's probably what that's going to look like as well, you know, if and when I get around to finishing it, and if not, who knows. Like I said, yeah, you know what, I'm going to put that challenge out to you guys. And that challenge is, don't use your spring pullers, don't use your guillotine tools. Try to neck down your piece, not every piece. You don't have to keep doing it. I mean, those tools there's a reason for them tools. They definitely make it easier. But, you know, try to make your necks, when you neck things down like that, you make the transitions and stuff and your steps, try to do it with your hammer. And learn your hammer control. And I don't even know where I put that thing down. I wonder if it was below that when I put the coal in. No, wait, I hung it up right here. Okay, yeah. So, like I said, try to make your transitions here and here. You know, here and here. Here and here, you know. And do them and try to keep them even, reasonably even and stuff, and do them with your hammer instead of the guillotine tool, and get in there and get right into that corner and you know, see how much of it you can do with your hammer without using, you know, too much other tools. Because, like I said, when I watched Steve work, it was like he would do things. I'd go over and I'd grab a flatter rod, or I'd grab, you know, a guillotine tool or a spring fuller or something, and he would just throw it over the edge of the anvil, hammer it, you know. He's here, he's hitting there, dead on, almost full, you know, a full force, the power of his hammer, you know, as hard as he can swing, you know. He wasn't like I do, tap, tap, tap right up to that edge. He was just wailing on it. Bring it out and be like, oh, look, there you go, it's all neck down. But yeah, try doing it. Yeah, and I just started doing it. Like I said, I've been cheating for a long time. You know, it's not because I don't have these. I literally bought this one at Quad State. I've been using this one for years. I got a few different dies for it up here. And I've been using this one for years. I made it 15, 20 years ago. It's held up fairly well. I never even welded a shank on to put it in my thing, even though I keep saying someday I'm going to do that. I got this one at Quad State, and as you can see, I have not even cut down the piece to make the dies. It's still sitting there just the way you buy it. I think there's more to this that I don't have on it, because there was like an arm here to lift this die after you drill a hole and put a bolt through it. That's why the notch was there. But like I said, you don't do that until after you cut your die and shape it, I guess. So I just never got to it. It's sitting there. I haven't really been using it much because I've been trying to learn how to do it without it. And, you know, there's times when I'm sure I will probably my C-frame isn't Thomas proof or Eli proof. We should say Eli proof. Well, no, we shouldn't say Eli proof, because that was Thomas's stupidity from what I heard. But yeah, I've just been working on that, and, you know, trying to spend a little more time forging and working on hammer control, and, you know, getting the surfaces nice and smooth. I mean, you look down that, it's not perfect, but it's not full of hammer marks. It is pretty smooth, pretty flat. And I could go back with a flatter and just pop, 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 and that would be perfect. But it's hard to use a flatter when you're by yourself. If you're working in a team, it's great. Facts. Yeah. Alright guys, well, I am going to check. I got my slack tub up on top of another bucket because I think it's probably 10 degrees hotter once you come up 2-3 feet off the floor. And like I said, we got so cold that my slack tub froze solid. And like right now, it's 5 degrees out. My heater isn't on right now. It shut off because it came up to temp. So, you know, it must have been cold for quite a while for my whole slack tub to freeze. But it was on the floor, and it was over near the door where it's cold. Comparatively, but. Alright guys, I am going to call it. Hope everybody had fun. Once again, I definitely encourage everybody while I'm doing my live streams, talk to each other, start conversations, bring up topics, and we'll all just hang out and have a good time. And on that note,